Hello, everybody. Welcome to Outpost Unknown's review of Velma, the new, I guess, adult animated cartoon based on a lot of the classic Scooby Doo characters that's on HBO Max right now. I don't know. This seems like to be kind of the topic of the moment on the internet right now. I think this just dropped on Friday or something. And before we get into our review of the first two episodes and sort of what they're about, I'm curious as to what your guys' knowledge of this was beforehand, before watching it. My sort of information on it was fairly limited. I knew that there was like an adult version of kind of like a Scooby Doo sort of thing coming out, and I know back in the day when it was first announced, there was a controversy over, oh, they've recast the various characters and made them different races and things of that nature. Is it woke? All of that stuff. But that was basically the limit of what I knew about it. Jeff, how aware were you of Velma and it coming out?
I was not. I think I had seen one little headline or blurb about because it's Mindy Kaling. Is that how you pronounce her name?
I think so.
I- is the creator of the show or something? She was in The Office, of course. I think I just saw something about Mindy Kaling is making a new adult humor animated series based on Velma, and there's a ton of these. Like I was sort of I used to think of myself as I like The Simpsons and I like these other shows. There are tons. If you like start scrolling Netflix or whatever, there's tons of these like adult kind of, I don't know what you say, PG-13 plus,
Not for kids animated
not for kids
shows.
sitcom animated comedy shows. There's tons of them, stuff I've never even heard of, and it has like 5 seasons on Netflix or something. So I thought, okay, here's another one of these things.
Okay, Steve, how about you? What was your knowledge of Velma going into it?
Not a whole lot. Pretty much the same as you two. I was never a fan of the original Scooby Doo, so I had very little reason uh, to give this a shot. So I knew there was a trailer. I knew there were people that were unhappy with Velma not being white, and that was all that I knew about it.
That's an interesting thing you bring up, Steve. How much love we bring to the original property, because I think a lot of this kind of stuff, and when a lot of outrage is generated on the internet about changes to beloved properties, that's where a lot of it comes from initially, even before people have sort of given the show a shot. So you are not a fan of the original Scooby Doo. I was a fan of the original Scooby Doo. I used to watch that all the time as a kid. Loved it. Jeff, where were you at in
I may
terms?
have seen 10 episodes of the
Yeah,
original We Do throughout my entire life.
I
Okay.
must be closer to Matt on that because I remember being a kid. Obviously, I'm young. Scooby Doo initially came out in like 1969 or something like that when it first debuted. But I was certainly watching reruns when I was a little kid. I remember it being one of the cartoons that was on in the afternoon or something. So I definitely have a fondness for Scooby Doo. I also enjoyed spooky stuff, and that's like spooky stuff for kids. So it hit me, where my interests were at the age that it was appropriate for me. So I will not claim to have some beloved devotion to Scooby Doo. Like I do other of my favorite fictional properties, but I'm definitely fond of it and watched it a lot when I was a little kid.
Okay, well, let's get into it. Steve, you're the master of plot synopses. So the first episode of Velma, like what you don't need to go point by point, but what is the first episode essentially about?
So I admit to I watched both of these episodes back to back. I could not tell you where one ended and one began. So I'm going to
Mhm.
treat episodes 1 and 2
Yeah,
just like one thing.
Okay.
fair.
Uh it starts with it's basically just an introduction to the characters, and all of the characters I would say are very simplistic for lack of a better word. Like they all have like one exaggerated character trait that is who they are, with the exception of Velma, who I think has two character traits.
Mhm.
So like Daphne is like the spoiled, popular, rich girl that everyone likes, and she treats everyone who's not popular like shit. Shaggy, who is not yet Shaggy in this universe, is this
Norville, right?
Norville. Yeah, Norville Rogers, I think is his name. He is this very like straight edge guy who is vehemently opposed to everything drug related. The complete opposite of kind of the idea that people have of Shaggy now. Fred is a man-sized infant with that level of intelligence, and Velma is a trench coat away from being a school shooter, and also she really, really loves to solve mysteries. The big backstory for Velma is Her mother got her into solving mysteries. And then one Christmas, she solved the mystery of what am I getting for Christmas? And so when she found her own Christmas presents, that ruined Christmas for everyone. And so her mom went out to find her another Christmas present so that Velma could have some sort of surprise. And that led to her mom's disappearance. And that's the thread running throughout both episodes is Velma is getting back into investigating what happened to her mom. Unfortunately, she blames herself for her mom's disappearance. And so anytime she starts trying to solve any mystery, whether or not it's related to her mom, she starts having hallucinations about monsters, and this specifically this like green skin like witch creature is pursuing her in these hallucinations. And I don't know if the show is if Velma is over exaggerating or if she's actually at risk of death, but she certainly plays it like these hallucinations will give her a heart attack if she doesn't break herself out of them when it happens. So the show opens with Daphne being a bitch to people in the girls' locker room. She starts a fight. Velma comes in and just cracks Daphne over the back of the head with a fucking broomstick or something. They start talking. They go to Velma's
All the
locker
girls
because
are naked, by the way,
yeah,
at that point
there's
too. I mean, it goes
I
right into your mature content.
yeah, they make this joke at the beginning of isn't it funny how whenever there's a new show, they completely pack the first episode full of sexual content to lure you in, and then it tapers off. And this show has this the episode one specifically has this running theme of, hey, did you know people have sex? Because people are going to have sex in this show. Did you know that sex is a thing? Sex exists in this show. And the whole time you're waiting for a second joke to occur. And I would argue it doesn't really happen.
Can I mention
Anyways,
something real quick about that
yes,
opening
go ahead.
sequence? So, this might spoil a little bit about. I'm sure you guys know exactly my feelings towards the show. I am not someone that enjoys nudity, sexuality, cursing, and stuff in cartoons. I just don't. That is not my thing. Steve knows this. Well, he's well aware of this when he recommends various DC animated stuff to me. There's a very infamous, was it Suicide Squad thing you
Yeah,
recommended to me?
Suicide Squad, like Attack on Arkham Asylum
Yeah,
or something like
I
that.
tapped out as soon as Harley Quinn's banging Deadshot. I'm like, I'm out. I'm done with this. And this opening thing here, because I kind of knew going in, all right, they're intentionally going to try to make this way. So I went in this kind of feeling I'm probably not going to like it. It's not my thing. But even in this opening sequence, when all these girls are naked, I'm just they go out of their way to be like they don't show breast, right? Because they're all covered in bubbles. So yeah, they'll show like an
Yeah, I mean,
animated
there's
butt.
obviously some lines that
Well,
Yeah,
they're not
these are
gonna
also
cross.
like high school girls, so I'm sure they wanted to stay far, far away from actual nudity. Velma gets arrested, mostly because of her reputation for being this like disgruntled girl, and she's arrested by Daphne's parents, who are both like these incredibly inept detectives, and they tell her, "We suspect you of killing this girl. You have X amount of time to prove you didn't. So solve this mystery. Solve this mystery that you were at the heart of. Otherwise, we are going to arrest you." So she has a couple of leads. At first, she suspects that it's her dad's new girlfriend, because the girlfriend runs like a diner where all
The
of the
malt
cool
shop
kids
where
go
the
hang
kids
out.
hang out. Yeah.
Yeah, the malt shop. And so Velma's like, well, the show, like, it doesn't really, it doesn't break the fourth wall so much as it kind of like acknowledges the genre that it's in. And so Velma's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
well, in all of like the teenage shows where kids go hang out at the malt shop, it's because the owner of the shop is this like very seasoned person who gives this sage like advice. But my dad's girlfriend is an idiot. Why are people going to her malt shop? And they Velma discovers that something weird is going on in the bathroom of this malt shop, and teenagers go and hook up in the bathroom malt shop. Someone Shaggy sent the dead girl into the bathroom with the camera to try to uncover evidence of what's going on in this bathroom. The girl dies,
Mhm.
but Velma's dad's girlfriend has a brand new camera, and so Velma thinks, she killed this girl and stole her camera, and that's my evidence. That absolutely does not pan out. Then she comes to believe that Fred is the killer because Fred was last filmed in the bathroom prior to the killing happening. You find out it's also not Fred that did it. The secret that Fred is protecting is that he is a late bloomer, who, even though he is like, 16, 17 years old, he's not actually gone through puberty yet. And so there's this kind of mini plot thread where he and Daphne are together, but they have not had sex yet. And Daphne keeps trying to fuck Fred, but because Fred hasn't gone through puberty yet, he has a tiny dick, and he doesn't want people to know about this. Fred ultimately gets arrested though, and Velma's dad, who is an attorney, represents Fred, and he tries to portray Fred as this infant like person who is just incredibly stupid. And Fred absolutely is fucking idiot in this movie. He has to have people cut his food for him. He throws tantrums when he gets a cold glass of water that's too
Here's the
cold.
thing, Steve. Here's the thing, though.
But yeah,
Is any of this funny?
no, I didn't. No, I watched this and I'm just stone faced. Like, none of this is humorous. I did not laugh a single time watching this. But I mean, that's pretty much the end of the synopsis. Velma's dad is trying to get Fred off the hook. Fred tries to portray himself as a badass to try to keep people from thinking he's a wuss. That leads to him being found guilty of the crime. So presumably, Fred is now in jail for this crime that he did not commit. And various other unfunny shenanigans happen before that. Like Daphne is secretly a drug dealer. Uh, Shaggy has a food channel that, and he's depressed to find out that only stoners watch it because his one character trait is being straight edge. No, this is not funny at all. Like, there are parts here that I like and I think they could do something with. I don't think the premise of this show was doomed to failure.
Well, what do you like? That we should start with the positives here. What do you like about this show?
It reminded me first of all, like, there's a lot of, like, more mature cartoon violence that was certainly not in anything of the era, of when Scooby-Doo originated. Like, someone gets his leg cut off just in the middle of the high school, but it's in, like, the middle of, like, someone delivering, like, a high school speech, and so he's just sitting there, like, not, bleeding out, not picking up his leg because he's so engrossed by this, these teenage shenanigans going on. I also thought that the parts that take place in high school reminded me a lot of Invader Zim, which is a fantastic show. I
Oh,
absolutely love Invader Zim because everyone is portrayed as so fucking stupid, except for like this tiny little cast of characters that seem to be smarter than everyone else. Like, there's something there. Like, a violent Invader Zim is not a terrible premise. It's just, I need a second joke. I need you to drop the constant references to people having sex and give me a second beat that I'm supposed to laugh at.
Okay. Jeff, what are your thoughts on Velma?
I think I actually kind of like this. I'm not sure because it seems like when I lay it out, I just watched it last night, so it's relatively fresh for me. It seems like it's got all the things in it that I don't want, that I'm not interested in, that I find obnoxious. But certain when the jokes hit, like the guy getting his leg cut off was hilarious to me, and I thought that was, I don't know, maybe it's stupid joke that worked for me, but I thought it was hilarious. I love that. And so if there's more kind of stuff like that sprinkled in there, then I think I'm going to watch the next. I've watched eps 1 and 2, right? So I'm going to watch the third one for sure. Maybe it'll lose me, but right now I'm on board, even though I've got all kinds of issues with it. And I think, I mean, maybe we'll transition and talk about some of those other things, but I think there's a lot of problems, or like a lot of like, why are you doing this? Why does this exist? But I had fun with it actually, which would maybe surprise myself.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm planning on like, it does a lot of things wrong, but I am genuinely curious to see how the mystery of Velma's mom
Mm.
plays out. So even though I couldn't say that I liked these first two episodes, I am planning on continuing it, giving
Yeah.
it another couple weeks to see how it turns out.
I like the animation style.
Yeah.
That's about it. Everything else in this is, it's like number one. Let me say, I have no problems with them, changing the races of the characters or anything like that. I have no problem with that. I thought that was probably the freshest part of the entire concept. My problem was, as you guys know, I'm not a big humor guy anyway, and I thought I sat there completely stone faced. I was like, this is not funny. It's not interesting. I couldn't even get behind the mystery angle of it because I really dislike sort of mysteries in which your primary sort of detective, in this case Velma, constantly gets the answer wrong over and over and over and over again. And it's like, oh, it's this person. Nope, turns out it's not. Oh, okay, well now I think it's this person. Oh, no, no, no. Whether it's a live action thing or animated, whatever, whenever you have your detective, and they're ostensibly supposed to be the smartest person in the room, right? And they're able to figure things out. And I don't know how many episodes this show is going to be, but I can't imagine that anything's going to get solved until the very end. And I'm like, okay, I'm not invested in the Velma character at all because I've already seen her in the first two episodes routinely get everything wrong. And I just don't care about any of this stuff. It's not funny to me. And again, I'm not somebody that really likes this kind of thing. This is not in my
Mm.
wheelhouse. Like the leg thing um in the school. I didn't laugh at that. I didn't think that was funny at all. I thought that was I was like, this is dumb. This is so stupid. So it's just not for me. So I'm hard tapping out after episode 2. I gave it a
Oh.
try. I gave it a shot. Uh, but there's nothing that I'm curious about as to where where this show goes.
I would really like to see a version of this show with you can give me all the same characters, you can give me the same level of cartoon violence, but I would like to see this like played straight. Like none of the humor is connecting with me, but I am interested in the mystery. But when I watched this show, about 10 years or so ago, I like for like one summer I got involved in improv. And I remember when I was learning the style or whatever, there was one girl in my improv class that anytime it was her turn to get up and do something, she would make a dick joke. That was it. No matter how the scenario started, when she gets on stage, it's a dick joke. And she never learned a second thing to joke about. And that is all I could think about while watching this show and absorbing the humor of it. But I'm all in for like a more serious take of this premise. It's just none of the humor is landing with me,
Yeah, if I
aside from
can,
the violent humor.
like, share my primary criticism of this, and then Scooby-Doo is not some, uh, pillar of the Western canon that we put up on a pedestal and nobody can ever come around and play with Scooby-Doo. Of course not. But nothing in this, and I'm only 2 episodes in, nothing in this has any other than, like, the basic visual design of the clothes Velma's wearing and the clothes Fred is wearing, not even, like, nothing in this calls back to anything having anything at all to do with what I remember Scooby-Doo being about. I mean, little through lines about, well, it's a young person and they solve a mystery or whatever. But like even in the original Scooby Doo, they weren't at school, right? They were just, I don't know what they were supposed to be, yeah,
Well, this
freewheeling
is
young adults.
This is like the prequel, right? This because I think in the
Yeah,
beginning, episode 1, she's like, "This is how this is how my
This is
story
my
starts and how
origin
we all
story.
I think
how
this
we all
would have.
become that."
I mean, I guess using the property gives them some built-in cachet and some interest and stuff, but I would have rather seen this just be an original work. It's not Velma, it's Sally, and it's
Yeah,
whatever.
I could see
All of
this
the
as
none of
like
these characters tie directly to what we know of Scooby Doo at all. So why not just create your own thing that's yours? Whoever wrote this, Mindy Kaling, or I don't know if she's the writer necessarily, but whoever wrote this, just write something that's all your own. I don't
yeah,
know.
just like you could just assign these characters different names, and it could easily
Yeah.
be like this could be to Scooby Doo what like the Venture Brothers is to Johnny Quest. It's like
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
a more adult take with similar characters,
Yeah,
but
you could
without
perceive
trying
that
to like,
they're
yeah.
aping Scooby-Doo or paying homage or something without yeah. So that seems a little weird to me, but or I don't know, unnecessary, but again, who am I to
Yeah.
tell someone
Scooby Doo is
if
not
they have
going
the
to
rights
win
to the
this.
Scooby-Doo, then they could yeah. He'll
Do you,
show up at some point, right?
Scooby Doo's got to show up at some point
Yeah.
in time. Now, the question is Scooby Doo going to be a Great Dane, or is it going to be something completely different? Because all of the all of the characters are different from what they were originally, which is fine. But I'd be actually curious if Scooby Doo is not a Great Dane, is like a Pomeranian or or something like.
Yeah.
I could see
Yeah.
them changing because everyone's waiting for Scooby Doo, right? It's like, okay, when is Scooby Doo
Has to
going to
be.
show up?
Yeah.
How are they going to portray Scooby Doo? That's the thing that I think will keep a lot of people watching, just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
But I'm curious. Like, I hope that they actually go out of their way and they do something different with Scooby Doo than what we've seen in the past. I just won't be watching to get to that point because I don't like the show. These
I
first two
haven't had
episodes.
I haven't had time to go down the rabbit hole yet, but just like googling, reviews and things prior to doing this with you guys tonight, there's apparently a stripe of criticism of this specifically, but also branching out into other things that it's like very like conspiracy minded to say things that like it's intentionally made bad to provoke angry engagement in your sort of YouTube and search engine optimization and stuff like they know they have an algorithm at this point that they know that if they make content of this sort, that it's just going to generate tons and tons of engagement and will keep
And
people's
we're
eyes
falling for it.
on the screen. Well, yeah. So there's I don't know. I'm going to jump down the rabbit hole after this, maybe.
So I have a question for you guys, kind of based on that. Like,
Mhm.
again, the show opens with this kind of very meta commentary about how shows like to fill the early parts of the show with sexual content
Uh-huh.
and then taper off. And then the first two episodes of this show proceed to fill the show with sexual content, and we don't know yet if it's going to taper off.
Right.
Was that on purpose to continue to make that joke? Like, is it intentionally bad, or did someone, in your opinion, do you think someone actually thought this was funny?
No, they think it's funny.
Oh, that's
I
disappointing.
think. Yeah. No, because
Yeah.
yeah, there's this. I won't. I'm in the middle watching this other sort of take on this stuff that I won't reference it here yet, but because I got to get through it. But it's pretty interesting. Like, in summary, there's this concept that like something like this comes out that for better or for worse, for whatever reason, it contains a lot of things that people find controversial from coming from different points of view, and almost immediately, people who are maybe position themselves in different camps feel an almost irrational need to either criticize or defend something that might be, if you're trying to be as objective as you can about it, it might be kind of mediocre. Maybe it's not that great, but depending on if you're coming from this side of things, you think that you have to criticize it even beyond what it deserves, and maybe it's not that bad. Or if you're on this side of things, you have to hold it up or prop it up beyond what it actually deserves because it's ostensibly doing some things that you find important. And so people have way too strong opinions about things like Velma for reasons outside of how good a show it actually is on its own merits.
I can agree with that. Yeah, and I think that to me, what's sort of interesting about this show is, like I said, that's why I wanted to touch base with you guys. Like, how much knowledge did you have going into this? Because this was already a controversial thing. I remember like a year ago or something is when that initial teaser trailer popped, and people were on the internet were just freaking out. It's like, oh yeah, Velma's not a white girl. What is this? You're rooting Scooby Doo, whatever. I think, like Steve said, I think all that's fine. I think any sort of content like this, it's fine to throw your spin on it and change the characters and stuff. But I feel like they were attempting to make a comedy with this. Now, to be fair to the creators of this, I'm probably not the demo that they're going for this type of comedy. So I wouldn't find this sort of comedy funny with anybody, honestly. This is just not my thing. It wasn't for me. But I like the ideas like, oh yeah, they're gonna show like hard R violence. I remember like when the girl drops down in the shower and like her skull is
Brains, yeah.
split and there's no brain and stuff like that. It all looked cool. The animation looks cool. The idea sort of behind it, I think I can get behind, but I feel like the execution, at least in these two episodes, was really flawed. And you know, that's just my take. I'm sure going forward, it's people will love it or hate it, but I'm just kind of like, it's not for me. I'm tapping out.
Yeah,
Anything else
fair
that you
enough.
guys have that you want to add to Velma?
A second writer for better jokes would be great for someone to add to Velma.
Yeah. Oh, what was that one I posted in the chat room where they're having some sort of like, you know, uh, back and forth, and one of the characters is like, oh, he's like a gym teacher spying on who's not a gym teacher anymore, and it's like there was a beat there for a laugh. I'm like, but
Yeah.
that's not funny at all. Like that's not funny. And everyone always says comedy is subjective, right? I mean, there's people who are going to find this show riotous, most likely. And comedy is a really unique genre in
I
that
don't think I'd believe someone who told me they found it riotous. I'd be like,
really.
you're blowing
What's
smoke.
your agenda?
Yeah,
I,
you're
I
up to
did look.
something if you say this is riotous.
I did look at Rotten Tomatoes right before this, and I think at
Oh,
Critics it was
it's
around.
rough.
Critics was like 55, 58, something like that.
That low. That low. Huh.
Audience score was 7. Last I looked, 7% audience score. So
Huh.
now I don't
What
know
do you
how many
trust
reviews.
more?
What do I? Well, I would have originally said critics takes. I guess it depends on what you're
That's an
trying to
interest. That could be
gauge
a whole
this on.
show in itself.
Yeah, what you're trying to gauge on. Like
Yeah.
if you're looking for opinions of people who maybe supposedly know a little bit more about this, a little bit more knowledgeable about how film works and story and character development and things of that sort of nature, you might trust the critic score a little more. But I think if you're looking for just a general gauge of what people um, are actually just feeling, like a gut reaction feeling to the show, I think you would go with the audience score. And I would only say that because, Rotten Tomatoes supposedly fixed their whole system, where it was sort of, I know there was a lot of review bombing in the past, and I think was it Captain Marvel, that was the big one that really set it off, where people were just review bombing it to drop the score to try to harm its box office. And supposedly now Rotten Tomatoes has things in place that can sort of fix that and prevent something. But a 7% audience score, that's pretty low. I mean, there'd have to be some sort of mass conspiracy going on
Yeah.
to say I don't like it. 7%, man. That's like
Also,
people saying I
also,
don't like
how
it.
many eyes are getting a hold of it? Because not everybody has the service that it's on. Like, I don't know, it's not as not as going to be as universally as seen as something like Avatar. Certainly.
I don't know. It's interesting. Velma, it looks like you guys are going to keep going with it. Godspeed. I hope you guys enjoy it, and let me know if it gets any better, I suppose. And maybe at some point I'll read a Wikipedia synopsis of the rest of it or something.
I'll let you
I'll
know what happened to her mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll certainly watch like whoever puts up on YouTube when Scooby Doo is actually introduced. I'm curious.
You'll
That's what I'm
check that
curious
out.
for.
Yeah.
I'll check that. Like, what are they doing with Scooby Doo here? But other than
Steve,
that,
we can do like one of those Pog Face live reactions of like react to Scooby Doo's first appearance in Velma. You and I'll do that for the
Yeah,
channel.
good idea.
there you go. There you go. So with that, thanks everyone for checking out our review of the first two episodes of Velma. What did you think of Velma? Leave a comment below. Tell me, should I keep watching this? Is there something I'm missing? And maybe if there's a groundswell of support from the community here at Outpost Unknown, I'll suffer through the rest of them. But with that, thank you everybody.